This Cooler Master Hyper EVO 212 is probably one of the most hyped CPU coolers on the internet, and it's super affordable. But does it live up to those expectations? Let's find out in this review. I do have an unboxing for this Hyper EVO 212 CPU cooler. I made it a long time ago, so it probably honestly kind of sucks. But if you want to check it out over there and find out what the CPU cooler comes with and all that fun jazz. If you guys don't know how to install CPU coolers, and this is like your first time ever doing it and all that cool stuff, I do have an installation video. Check it out wherever else I put it on this video, and you can find out how to install a CPU cooler. And actually in that video I use the Hyper EVO 212, so it kind of works out for this review as well. So watch those two videos if you want to, or just continue with this one. So for a very cheap price, you get a lot of stuff on the CPU cooler. You get Intel and AMD mounting hardware, and it like literally includes everything, AMD and Intel backplates, all the screws and nuts and everything you need, so very good job there, Cooler Master. The fan that it comes with is pretty good. It's not very loud at all, which is great. And you can install a second one on the back to have push-pull, but you really probably don't need it, to be honest, unless you're going to do some pretty intense overclocking, which in that case you probably want to get something more expensive than this. But the fan that it comes with is pretty nice. The CPU cooler has 4 heat pipes on each side, so a total of 8. So that's plenty of heat pipes, and those heat pipes are actually directly touching the CPU, which is very awesome as well. So it takes the heat right away from the CPU. And because of that, this CPU cooler has a TDP of 180 watts, which is very high and should, pretty much take care of the majority of CPUs on the market. Whenever you actually go to install this puppy though, installation is not pretty. It's really not pretty with any CPU cooler. Like some really fancy ones have the installation better than this one, but installation on this one honestly sucks. And I guess you'll see that in my installation video. But the good thing about installation, you should only have to do it once unless you have like a CPU issue or something like that. So make sure you actually test the CPU with like another CPU cooler. But after you get this thing, a puppy, running and everything, you're pretty much good to go, and you should never have to touch installation again. Compatibility wise with the CPU cooler, processor wise, it's probably gonna match just about any processor out there, but height wise, it's a very high CPU cooler, or I guess tall CPU cooler. So make sure you have like if you have like an HP or a Dell and you want to upgrade the CPU cooler, it might be pretty marginal if it's going to fit in that case. Here I got a Cooler Master HAF 922, I believe, and it fits just fine in this. So make sure you have about 6.5 inches of clearance between the CPU and the, I guess like the door in your case, or you're not going to be able to put that door back on the case. Performance with the CPU cooler is honestly pretty great, and you wouldn't expect that from the price, but it just works perfect. On this computer I have an AMD FX 8150, I think, and that's 8-core clocked at 3.6 gigahertz, has a TDP of 125 or so, I think. So very high TDP on this CPU, but it keeps it fairly cool. I mean, under normal loads, it's around 40 degrees Celsius, like it maxes out there. And if I'm like rendering videos, doing stuff really CPU intensive, it'll get around 50 degrees Celsius, which is still well within the safety zone. So that's pretty great with a budget CPU cooler like this. If you really want to go crazy, all-in-one water cooling is the way to go. Get like a Corsair H100i or something like that if you want to get some really crazy overclocks. But if you're not too concerned about overclocking, you just want to get a little bit extra performance out of your CPU, you could definitely do it with this CPU cooler easy. Overall, this CPU cooler is an absolute steal for the price. I mean, it should still be in like the $30 or $30 range, and for that price, I mean, this thing is an absolute steal. You should buy like a couple of them just to have some by spare, because it's really great. Installation is a total pain in the ass, but once you have that done with, this thing is incredible. It's easy to clean. The fan comes off super easy, and it's quiet, it's cool, and It's way better than a stock CPU cooler, I'll tell you that much, and it's not even that much more than a stock CPU cooler, so there really isn't much of a reason to not get this, to be completely honest. Anyways, I think that covers pretty much everything with the Cooler Master Hyper EVO 212. It's a really great CPU cooler. I have it on 2 of my computers, and it's just great. It keeps running on low lows, it's very quiet, and keeps it very cool. And by the way, if you guys didn't like my cable management, it's really not that good on this computer. I really should go back through it and fix the cable management, but I got other stuff to do. So sorry about that, but I hope that pretty much covers everything. If you guys have any questions about the CPU cooler, drop them in the comments section. And otherwise, like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you thought it was poopy, and subscribe to my channel if you guys liked like CPU coolers and shit like that, and graphics cards and all that fun stuff. So beyond that, you guys have a great motherfucking day, and I'll see you later. Peace out.